Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, just wait. Just wait. Okay. So we left in the last class at which portions? Can you say? Where did we leave at the last class? Dynamics of circular motion. Which example we have covered? Example 5.21 is over.
Yes, sir.
And example 5.22, that is rounding a banked curve, that was over, or we have not touched that?
We were doing that, sir.
We are doing that. Okay, so we'll continue from there. Okay, just so just wait. So a car was traveling at a certain speed. It is possible to bank a curve at just the right angle. So you know, when the road is flat and unbanked, okay, and if you want to take a turn, then there must be friction. Friction must provide you the required centripetal force. Otherwise, you cannot take a turn. But suppose there are certain situations where friction is extremely minimal or there is almost no friction. In that case, it is not possible to take a turn. Then what you are going to do? So the technique is called banking of the curve. So how you are going to, or what does that mean? That means the outer edge of the road is to be elevated with respect to the inner edge. So the inner edge will be at the horizontal level. This is the inner edge, and the outer, this one will be elevated like this, with an angle beta. Okay, so there is an elevation. So you see, this is the elevation. Your inner edge, it is at this level, this horizontal level, but your outer edge, it is at this level, isn't it? So there is an elevation of this height, or the angle is beta. Okay, and we have to find out that if beta elevation is there, or the banking angle is beta, then how much, with what speed you are advised to negotiate that curve. That is what is important. And what is the advantage of banking the curve? If you don't have any friction also, it is possible to take the curve. And suppose I was giving you an example that when a train is moving and the train has to take a sharp bend, then the only possible way is to go for a banking. Otherwise, the friction between the wheels of the train and the railway tracks is very, very minimal. So it will not be possible to provide the required centripetal force for the train to take a turn, isn't it? So that is the advantage. So now can you guess what is most important is, if you have remembered, because that I don't know whether I have discussed that thing in the last class or not. Anyway, there is no harm in repeating the discussions, in the sense that when I was dealing with it, because there is a misconception between banking of the curve and the physics of inclined plane, that you must understand. So a lot of people commit this error. Even we are also committing the same errors again and again. So that misconceptions must be cleared up. So what is that? If you take an inclined plane, and if I place a body like this, and if I want to study its physics, then naturally and when I draw the free body diagram, it is advantageous for me to take my axis parallel to the uh, this inclined x-axis, and then I draw the perpendicular that becomes my y-axis. Then I represent my force as the weight of the body vertically downwards like this, and the normal force is acting along the positive y-axis to the inclined plane. Okay, this is my n, isn't it? This is my n, and this is my w. Then what I did, I removed this w and I replace it by two components, isn't it? One is its w cos theta component, which is the adjacent of the angle, isn't it? This angle, suppose this angle is theta, this angle is also theta, isn't it? So this also is theta. Then I got another component w sine theta, isn't it? So this is w sine theta. So this is the physics of an inclined plane. Okay, so naturally what will happen, you will also commit the same error. Now what happens in the here one component of w cos theta is balanced by the normal force, and there is a w sine theta unbalanced component which will provide the force, or which is a force that will act on the body. Now if w sine theta is able to counter the friction, or if w sine theta is equal to the kinetic friction, suppose the force of kinetic friction, then the body will move with constant velocity. If w sine theta is more than the Fk, that is force of kinetic friction, then the body will move with constant acceleration. And if w sine theta is less than mu Fk, then the body will be at rest. All these things we have discussed. Why I am not going to take this set of inclined axis, though it appears that this is also an inclined plane, and why the physics of this inclined plane will not be applied to this problem. The only thing is that I am not interested to find out the centripetal force in this along this plane, isn't it? Centripetal force not along this plane. I am interested to find out my centripetal force which acts along the radius towards the center horizontally, because this is the circle I am dealing, isn't it? You see, and this circle, the inner edge, that is the circle, it is in the horizontal plane, isn't it? So the force must act along the horizontal x-axis along the radius towards the center. That's why I am not going to take these inclined planes. And if I am not going to take the inclined planes, now you see my n will be resolved into two components. Instead of resolving w into two components, I will resolve this n into two components. So that is the normal mistakes we all do. So that you should be a little bit careful, otherwise that will give you headaches, isn't it? So now what I am going to do, I will take a set of horizontal and vertical axes, isn't it? Because my purpose is to determine the force that is responsible for this circular motion, isn't it? Because ultimately what is doing this, your car or your vehicle is making a circular motion, because this is a part of the circle, isn't it? So now what I will do, I will show my normal force perpendicular to the inclined plane like this. This becomes my n, and my weight is vertically downwards. So naturally I will resolve my n into two components. This is my n, and as I have mentioned you, either you have the freedom of choosing the angle correctly, or you have the freedom of choosing the angle wrongly. Now that is up to you, because now I will do, if you are a little bit capable, then you should commit mistakes and you can rectify your mistakes, or you will get away with the mistake, because your mistake is also logical. But if you are a little bit untrained, that it is always better to be right. So this is beta, and this becomes my 90 degree minus beta, as I told you. So if you take 90 degree minus beta, your sine component will always be the vertical component and cos will be the horizontal component. So cos 90 degree minus beta will be your x component, isn't it? Cos 90 degree minus beta is sine beta. So you can say n sine beta is your x component, isn't it? Or the horizontal component. And what is your vertical component? It is sine 90 degree minus beta, or that is what is n cos beta. So your n cos beta is the vertical component, and n sine beta is the horizontal component. Now your n is no more because n has been resolved into two components, and this is your w. So now you see this way of what happened. Is there any question? So now this way of banking the curve has the advantage of producing or freeing one component of the of the normal force, because earlier in a horizontal flat road the entire normal force was utilized in balancing the weight, but now the part of the normal force, that is n cos beta, is enough in balancing w. So you have got still an unbalanced force, a net force n sin beta, that is working on the body. And you look at the directions also, you are so fortunate that the force is along the radius, horizontal, and towards the center. So now you get a force without friction, even a n sin beta force. Now this n sin beta, or this n sin beta, this n sin beta force, you see, is if this actually provides you the force which is going to change the direction of the body who is going to take a turn, isn't it? So how you are going to bank the curve then? Now this n sin beta, uh, n sin beta must be equal to, because if you look at this, now we will apply Newton's first and second law. I will apply Newton's first law to the y-axis because there is no acceleration along the y-axis. So sum of all Fy is equal to 0, and I will write it. So what I am writing now, this, look at this free body diagram, and I will write it as sum of all Fy is equal to 0. If sum of all Fy is equal to 0, then on the left hand side I will write n cos beta, n cos beta minus w, n cos beta minus w is equal to 0. n cos beta minus w is equal to 0. From here I will get n cos beta is equal to w, isn't it? N cos beta is equal to w, n cos beta is equal to mg, because w is mg. Okay, and from here I can also get my n. So what will be my n? My n is equal to mg by cos beta, mg by cos beta. So that is my normal force, mg by cos beta. So you look at the normal force. Now the normal force will increase by 1 by cos beta times. Earlier n was balancing mg in a horizontal flat road, but now n is not equal to mg, but n is equal to mg by cos beta. Now if I will apply my laws of motion to this free body diagram for the x-axis, then here there is an unbalanced force, so my sum of all fx is not equal to 0. So I will apply Newton's second law of motion. So sum of all fx is not, if it is not equal to 0, it must be equal to product of two quantities. One is m and the other is ax. One is a vector quantity and the other is a scalar quantity. So the left hand side is also a vector quantity, so there is no problem. Now sum of all fx means there is only one force, so I will write n sin beta. So I will write n sin beta is equal to max, isn't it? I will write n sin beta is equal to max. But this ax, look at this ax. This ax is a special kind of acceleration, and that is due to this force n sin beta, which allows the body to change its direction but not its magnitude, and that is what is called a radial acceleration, and it has a value which is v square by r, isn't it? This has a value v square by r. So what now I will be getting? Now I will put the value of n which I have determined from here, mg by cos beta. So I will write so now I will write it as n sine beta is equal to, so in place of n, I will write mg by cos beta. So I'm writing, look at, probably this will be better. So m in place of n, I am writing it as mg by cos beta, mg by cos beta, mg by cos beta into sin beta is equal to mv square by r is equal to mv square by r, mv square by r. Now this m get cancelled, so you get g tan beta. Okay, so what we are getting, let me make it little bit room for it so that this will be clear. Let me okay, so finally, just wait. Okay, so I will get g tan beta is equal to v square by r. G tan beta is equal to v square by r, isn't it? Or tan beta is equal to v square by rg. Tan beta is equal to v square by rg. So now what does it indicate? It shows that the angle of banking depends upon three things. It depends upon the acceleration due to gravity of the place, which normally doesn't change on the surface of the earth, almost 9.8 meter per second square. So finally, actually, it depends upon the speed of the body and the radius of curvature of that curve. Okay, so the sharp is the bending, less is the radius of curvature, and the right hand side will be bigger, so you need a larger banking angle. But if your curve, if it is an ordinary bending, so r will be less, r will be more, and on the right hand side will be less, so tan beta will be small and beta will be small, so you can manage with a very small angle of banking. And again, look at this dependence of beta with the speed. It is very sensitive to speed. If you increase the speed by 2 times, your tan beta increases by 4 times. So more the speed, then you have to go for a larger banking angle. So it is always advisable that when you are taking a turn, you have to be slow, isn't it? Because ultimately the nature is focusing more not on speed but your change in direction. So because nature is facilitating changes in direction at the cost of speed, so you should not aim for both the things. If at all you are going to aim for both the things, then be sure that when that speed is advisable for you, so that the speed square divided by rg must not exceed 10 beta. Okay, that is what is important, and I hope I have explained what is the advantage of this banking and all these things, isn't it? So this part is over, I think. Now we'll go to another example. That examples we have discussed or not, I don't know, because now I am not taking track of many things. So maybe I will be repeating certain things because I am relying on some of you who are telling that this has been taught, this has not been taught. On the basis of that, I am doing all these things. Okay, so is it clear to you? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we'll go to another interesting example, that is example 5.23. So what is example 5.23? Let me tell you, just wait. Let me take a uh, just probably there was a class. Yes. Oh, this was not there. Anyway, just wait. I have got a to make a new kind of thing. Okay. And so, okay. So, what is this example? This is example 5.23. Example EXAMPLE. Example 5.23. So let me make it little bit bigger so that yes, this will do, I think. Now, is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Is it clearly visible to all of you, or should I make the font little bit bigger?
Visible, sir. It's visible.
It's okay. Okay. So now a passenger on a carnival ride, a passenger on a carnival ride on a carnival Ferris wheel, on a carnival Ferris wheel, Ferris wheel. The giant wheel, that means wheel, moves in a vertical circle, moves in a vertical circle of radius r, with constant speed, v, this seat remains upright. The seat remains upright during the motion. Find expressions for the force. The seat exerts on the passenger, at the top of the circle, and at the bottom. Okay. So this is the question. So a passenger on a carnival Ferris wheel moves in a vertical circle of radius r with constant speed v. The seat remains upright during the motion. Find expressions for the force the seat exerts on the passenger at the top of the circle and at the bottom. Okay. So now what should I do? So now just wait. Okay. So this is the vertical circle. The giant wheel you must be familiar with, isn't it? So the person is here at the bottom, okay, like this. This is suppose, and when it goes here, also the person is like here. Okay, don't think that the person will make a somersault, not like this, isn't it? When it goes up, don't think that he will look like this. No, this is not. Okay, so this seat is upright. She is not falling from this seat or not making any somersault, but it is revolving in this way. Okay, the only strange thing about this vertical motion is that this is uniform. That means the speed is not changing. Normally you are familiar with non-uniform vertical circular motion, or isn't it? So but here also the speed remains constant, only the direction is continuously changing. So that advantage is there. Okay, so what we are going to determine in this problem? What we are going to determine? Yes, what we are going to determine in this problem? This is example 5.23. Don't keep quiet. I am asking you a question and you have to answer. What we are going to determine in this problem? so that we can go stepwise, isn't it? 5.23. This is the example. Yes, anybody?
Force exerted by the seat on a person.
Yes, at the top and at the bottom. That is right. And what is that is known as the force exerted by the seat on the passenger has a special name. What is that known as? If I am standing on the floor is exerting a force on me. And what is that
Wait,
Normal
called?
force. Normal force.
Normal force. So basically, the question says you to find out the normal force on the passenger in a vertical circular motion at the top and at the bottom. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any guess? Any guess? If we have not done that in the, I have not remembered. So have we done this question in the last class, or we have not touched it?
no, sir, not touched it.
Not touched.
No, good. Okay, okay. Then can you say, can you guess? Just let us guess for fun. What do you expect about the normal force? Will it be same at the top and at the bottom? There is one option. Will it be greater at the top compared to the bottom? That is option 2. Will it be less at the top, more at the bottom? Option 3. What do you guess? Before going to the problem, let us guess and let us verify, so that will be an interesting journey for you. What do you think? What will happen?
Remains
Yes.
same.
Remain same. Good. Very good. So this is one option. It will remain same. Okay. And any other options? Yes. Please speak. Any other option? Anybody? Anybody who thinks that there may be other possibilities also, many other alternatives also? What do you think? Anissa, what do you think? What will happen to the normal force or the force that the seat exerts on the passenger? If you were a passenger riding on the giant wheel and you will be sitting on that swing on your seat, that the seat is also, because you are pushing the seat downwards, the seat will also push you upwards. So there will be a normal force. So normal force at the top, normal force at the bottom. One of your friends says that the normal force at the bottom and at the top, it will be same. Do you agree with him or you disagree? Anybody?
I agree.
You okay. Let us see. So you agree. Now, why do you agree? Why do you think that the normal force will be same in okay, I will ask you this question again. After, you can change your opinion again after 5 minutes. I will ask you the same question again with a little bit explanation. Let us go a little bit, make a little amount of journey, and then I will again come back to you. Now you see, when the person is at the bottom, this is the center. Okay, what are the forces acting on the passenger? Can you say? What are the forces acting on the passenger when the passenger is at the bottom? Suppose I want to draw a free body diagram for the passenger at the bottom. FBD for passenger, FBD for passenger, FBD for passenger, FBD for the passenger at bottom, FBD for passenger at bottom. FBD for passenger at bottom. Yes, now I will reduce my passenger to a point, then I will draw my axis as usual, and then I will show the forces. Now tell me, what are the forces acting on the passenger? Sudhanshu Prasad left. Yes, what are the forces acting on the passenger? One is because the passenger has a mass, so that mass will be pulled by the R, and that is what constitutes a weight. So we will indicate the weight of the passenger acting vertically downwards. Yes, that is right. Any other thing?
The seat push the man upward. That is normal.
Who pulls the man upward?
Pull.
Normal force.
Who pulls the man upward?
The normal force. That are greater
No,
than
normal force, you see, normal, I will, pull can be applied through a string. Pull can be applied through a string. So there is no string. So there is no questions of any pull. So it's a push. Are you able to understand? That means because you are pushing the seat will also push you, and that is what is called a normal force. So I will indicate the normal force in which direction? I will indicate the normal force perpendicular to the seat, because the seat is horizontal. So the normal is along the y-axis. So I will show this n like this. Now, what is the relationship between the magnitude of n and the magnitude of w? Who is bigger? Or n is equal to w? That is one possibility. N is greater than w? That is one possibility. N is less than w? That is also one possibility. What do you think?
N is equal to W.
N is equal to W. Okay, good, good. That's why I ask you questions. N is equal to W. If N is equal to W, what is the net force acting on the passenger at this point? Yes,
zero.
it will be 0. And if it will be 0, what will happen to the passenger? Tell me. If the net force acting on some object is 0, what happens? The body will be in uniform motion. The body will be in uniform motion. What do you mean by uniform motion? The body will move with a constant speed along a fixed direction. Rest is also a state of uniform motion. The only difference is that here the constant velocity is 0. That means either the passenger will be at rest, or the passenger will move along this direction horizontally with a fixed speed. Is it happening? Is it happening?
No, sir.
No. Then can I say that N is equal to W?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
No. Then what should I say?
Sir, N is
What should
greater
I
than
say?
N
W.
is greater than W.
N is greater than W. Why N should be greater than W?
Sir, because it is moving in a circular path.
Yes. Because it is moving in a circular path, it needs a net force equal to mv square by r. Unless the passenger, unless a force acting on the passenger towards the center along the radius is mv square by r, the passenger cannot make a circular motion. That is taken for granted. Unless a net force of mv square by r is acting on the passenger along the radius towards the center, the passenger cannot make a uniform circular motion. And where from this mv square r will come? Because only n is in this direction, because n is acting, remember, n is only acting towards the center and along the radius. So n must be bigger than w by how much amount? By mv square by r amount. So I can write nb, b means bottom. So my nb must be greater than, directly by logic I can apply Newton's second law, no problem. But you see, without applying the Newton's second law, just by logic I can say that NB must be bigger by weight W by how much amount? By mv square by r amount, by mv square. This is much better way. I always appreciate this way of doing physics. But you can also, if you are little bit untrained or you are learning physics, then you can apply Newton's second law to this problem, because this NB is bigger and there is an acceleration upward like this. You can indicate. You should not show this as AY along the y-axis, but side by side you can show it. apply Newton's second law. Write Newton's second law as sum of all Fy is equal to MAY. Sum of Fy is equal to, because Ay is positive, so you can take your Ay as positive, isn't it? MAY. And on the left hand side you write NB minus W. NB minus W is equal to M, because Ay is V square by R. So naturally you will get MV square by MV square by R. So NB is equal to W plus MV square by R, which I have already got. Okay, and when is it? So this is the normal force the passenger will experience when he or she is at the bottom of that giant wheel. Now your passenger comes to this position, okay, at the top position. So if you do the free body diagram of the passenger at the top position, then how I am going to do this free body diagram? So without writing the free body diagram for passenger at the top, I am just doing the I am representing the forces only. So what are the forces? Again, the weight will be there, which will be vertically downwards, This is your weight, isn't it? This is your weight. And also there is a normal force, and this normal force is here, normal force at the top. Now, will they be same? Now, I am asking you a question. Will they be
sir.
same? No. Who should be bigger?
W.
Who should be bigger, W or NT?
W.
W. Good. Now you see, its W should be bigger by from NT by what amount? Again by MV square by R amount. So now you see your W or your NT is smaller than W by how much amount? NT is smaller than W by how much amount?
MV square by R.
Very good. By MV square by R amount. W minus MV square by R. So are they same? Are NT and NV same?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No. Yes. So the normal force at the bottom is bigger or greater than the normal force at the top. Here also I can apply Newton's second law. I am showing you how I have applied. This is by logic I have reached everything. I can apply my Newton's second law also stepwise fashion, and I can find out. So how I am going to apply my Newton's law? Just I am applying, you see. Now here actually my acceleration is pointing in this direction, because the force will point in this direction. So I will show my AY side by side as AY. I will apply my Newton's second law. I will write sum of all Fy. Sum of all Fy is equal to MAY. MAY. First I will write the equation, then I will put my results and sign conventions and all these things. So Fy is NT minus W is equal to minus M, because AY is negative and its value is V square by R. V square by R. Okay. So now what I will do, I will take this W to this side and bring this, I will put this NT here, and then I will write NT is equal to, I will take W to that side. So it becomes W minus MV square by R, which we have already got from our logic, isn't it? So when the passenger is at the top, she has to find out the centripetal force, required centripetal force from its weight. And why she is able to get that? Because fortunately at the top position her her normal force is less, so she can afford an unbalanced force of MV square by R amount from the weight. But when she is at the bottom, then she cannot afford that centripetal force from the weight, but she can afford it from the normal force, because fortunately now the normal force is more. So after balancing the W, still the person is left with a force of mv square by r amount, which will provide the required centripetal force for her to make a circular motion. So if I will put W is equal to mg, and if I take m common, then the mathematics inside the bracket will be, I will take mg as common. If I will take mg means weight as common, then I will get 1 plus v square by rg. 1 plus v square by rg, isn't it? And similarly nt will be nt v square by rg, v square by rg. And and nb, this is nb, and similarly nt will be, this nt will be mg mg into 1 minus v square by rg. V square by rg. Okay, so I hope now we have covered almost all examples of chapter 5. Probably we have, I don't know how many, there are 4 tests your understanding in this problem. So I think I have worked out one. Now I will do another, and maybe we will go for the other 2 test your understandings. Then I will give you that set of assignment exercises, which I have remembered or not, I don't know what are the assignment exercises. Otherwise I will send it to you, or we can. Okay, so now I am clearing the frame. Okay, so this is example 5.23 that we have worked out. Okay, now we'll go to test your understanding 5.4. Test your understanding 5.4. Satellites are held in orbit. Satellites are held in orbit. This is a very long question having a very small answer, so you need not worry. Satellites are held in orbit by the force of our planets gravitational attraction. A satellite in a small radius orbit moves at a at a higher speed than a satellite in an orbit of large radius. Based on this information, what you can conclude about the Earth's gravitational attraction for this satellite. Now the options are, one option is, so let me tell you, this is satellite. Okay, one option is it increases with increasing distance. increasing distance from the earth. From the earth. So the options are, this is 1, then this is 2. It is the same. It is the same at all distances. All distances from the earth. And third is, it decreases. It decreases with increasing distance. With increasing distance from the earth. And the last one is, this information by itself. This information by itself is not enough. Is not enough to answer the question. To answer the question. Okay. So I hope you are able to see my screen. So this is the question. Satellites are held in orbit by the force of our planet's gravitational attraction. So normally a satellite is making a circular motion, and the required centripetal force for this circular motion is provided by the gravitational attraction between our planet and satellite. Okay, that is clear. So there is a net force acting on the satellite, which is the gravitational force of attraction between the satellite and the earth. Now a satellite in a small radius orbit, what does this mean? A satellite in a small radius orbit. So if suppose this is a small radius, so now the satellite is moving like this, let us assume in this orbit. This is satellite A. And satellite B is moving in a larger orbit, isn't it? Suppose twice the, like this, the satellite is moving. And suppose this is the satellite B. Okay. So now coming back to the question, a satellite in a small radius orbit moves at a higher speed than a satellite in an orbit of large radius. Based on this information, what you can conclude about the Earth's gravitational attraction for the satellite. So here the speed of the satellite A, that is VA, and here the speed of the satellite of B, which is VB, they have a relationship, and the relationship is VA is greater than VB. That is, a satellite which is moving along a smaller radius of orbit has a higher speed. Okay, this is satellite A. Now, basing upon this information, what you are going to conclude? Can you conclude that it increases with increasing distance, the gravitational force of attraction? That is because here the centripetal force is coming from the gravitational force of attraction. So can you say that the gravitational force of attraction, now you know, so you can answer this question. But if you don't know, then the logic would have been much beautiful. So the gravitational force of attraction increases with increasing distance from the earth. It is the same at all distances from the earth. It decreases with increasing distance from the earth. This information by itself is not enough to answer the question. Why? Because now you see your earth is here. Your earth is at the center. Here also your earth is at the center. And the distance of the satellite here is this one. This is suppose R. Okay. And here also the satellite is there. And here the distance is 2R, suppose. Isn't it? A bigger area. So here it is making very furious storm, isn't it, with high speed. Now can you say, what should we say? Yes? What should be our answer? Third one. Yes, that is why I told you, because you know that the gravitational forces decreases with increasing distance. So naturally you will answer this question, but actually your logic should be different in the sense that suppose you don't know anything about the gravitational force of attraction, only you know about the centripetal force. Then how you are going to do this logic? So you will write F net, that is the net force on the satellite is equal to mv square by r. The same satellite, only it is moving in two different radius of orbits, isn't it? So you see this F net here. Now you see F net. What is the relationship of F net with R? Yes. When R
Sir,
increases, when R
Inverse.
decreases, F net increases, isn't it? So here you see the R is more R, so less F net. Again here less R, so more F net. Again the F net is directly proportional to the speed of the square of the speed. So here the speed is more. So again here F net will be more, here F net will be less, isn't it? So the net force of attraction on the planet is directly proportional to V and inversely proportional to R. So naturally the net force is more here and the net force is less here. Because the net force is equal to gravitational force of attraction, the gravitational force of attraction here is more and the gravitational force of attraction is less here. So the gravitational force of attraction, which is more here, okay, is more because due to less distance. So and here it is less due to more distance. So the relationship of the gravitational force of attraction with the distance is not direct but indirect or inverse, rather inverse. That means more the distance, less is the force of attraction, less is the distance, more is the force of attraction. That is how you have to proceed, because you know that the gravitational Newton's gravitational law of attraction, F is equal to G m1 m2 by r square, so that you are able to answer these questions in your own way. But that is how you should have approached it. Okay, anyway, this I have worked out for you. There are two more test your understanding probably, and those are a very big kind of thing. This will do. Another test your understanding will maybe a very big one, so it may take time. The whole time will be over in writing the question, but let me write it, because anyway I have to write it sometime, so why not now? So test your understanding. These questions will not be test your understanding. Just wait. TYEO 5.3. But these are very interesting questions actually. We should discuss it bit by bit. Test your understanding why it is not going. Okay. 5.3. Okay. So why it will be here? Let it bring it to this side. Okay, now I am writing the question. Probably will the whole time will be another 6 minutes left will be utilized in writing the question. Anyway, this is still better, so that we can discuss this question and start the new chapter in next class. Consider, you can take a screenshot also. Consider a box that is placed on different surfaces, full stop. Okay, consider a box that is placed on different surfaces. In which situation was a time no friction force no friction force acting on the box. On the box. And bit B is in which situations situation or more than one means situations is there a static friction is there a static friction force acting on the force acting on the box. In which situations is there a kinetic friction force on the box, okay, and now it will give the situations. Okay, this is the question. Then what are the situations? Let me write. So what are the situations? The box is at rest on a horizontal on a rough horizontal. The box is at rest on a rough horizontal. ROUGH, rough horizontal surface. Rough horizontal surface. Now, second, the box is at rest on a rough tilted surface. The box is at rest on a rough tilted surface. Third, the box is on the rough surfaced. The box is on the rough surfaced flat bed of a trough. Flat bed of a trough. The trough is moving at a constant velocity on a straight straight level road. And the box remains in the same place in the middle. Remains in the same place in the middle of the trough bed. Then the fourth situation is, again let me copy it because most probably the same thing is repeated. I think trough bed slightly changes. Okay, then the box is on the rough surfaced flat bed of a trough. The trough is speeding off. The trough is speeding off on a straight level road, and the box remains in the same place in the middle of the trough bed. Okay, and the third and the last one is, the box is on the rough surfaced flat bed of a trough. The trough is climbing a hill. The trough is climbing, CLIMB, climbing a hill. heel, and the box is sliding, and the box is sliding towards the back of the truck, and all other things. Sorry, back of the truck. This thing is not required. Okay, so this is the question. So you can take a, let me make it a little bit smaller so you can take a screenshot of the whole thing if you like. This is very interesting. We will discuss it in the next class, McCamey in 16. Now you see, you are able to see it probably. So you can take a screenshot, or still it is, now it's okay. So you can take a screenshot of the whole thing. Have you taken a screenshot? Have you taken a screenshot of this?
Yes, sir, taken.
Okay, okay, good. We will start from the next class with the discussion of this interesting textual understanding. So let me stop here because I have got a class now. So thank you very much for your attention, and we will meet in the next class. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let me stop it
Thank you,
here.
sir.
Okay, thanks.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone.